Hey, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm meteorologist Greg Majeski with the Weather Report here on your August the 29th, 2025. Are you guys ready for Labor Day weekend? I know I am, as I know a lot of folks will be traveling, getting ready for the long weekend. Weather-wise, not looking too bad across the nation. We got a couple of hot spots here and there to talk about. We're going to give you the latest on the tropics as well, see if there's anything out there brewing you need to worry about. And then we're going to also talk about this continued odd weather pattern. We're talking about another cold shot expected to come down toward the end of next week. Again, in the east, it's going to be definitely a tale of two seasons across the nation. We're going to be hot in the west, cool in the east. It's kind of a crazy topsy-turvy weather pattern here continuing. Although I think there's some indications maybe toward the middle of the month we get back to more reasonable weather across the nation. Anyway, hey, if you're new here to the channel and you're catching this live broadcast after the fact, if you haven't done so yet, if you can please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you can, hit the notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you appreciate what you see here, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. It does help with the YouTube algorithm a little bit. And again, we're kind of a no-nonsense channel here. We kind of give it to you straight. We don't hype every storm to death. Our motto is real simple: be prepared and not scared. And that's what I hope to do here for you guys. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Again, what we're seeing right now, let me get out of my studio mode here. Here we go. Our cool spot yesterday was Davis there in West Virginia. And there was another place out in California, too, that had the same low. And then 107 down in Death Valley. And there was also a couple other locations, too, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. But that's all that matters. 31 and 107, that was your extremes across the nation. You kind of see we got some thunderstorms down here into Louisiana this morning. We got rains down along the Gulf Coast. We'll show you that a little bit. We got other reinforcing shot of some cool air coming in here across the northeast as well. And still just plain old kind of hot out here in the west. And it's going to continue to be hot. And I'll show you the latest numbers on that here in a second as we continue with that abnormally warm weather out in the west. And I think that's pretty much going to stick with us here as we flip the calendar into September. There is our surface map, and again, you see the flash flood warnings there. That one just getting issued there in Texas. That's still continuing to be a problem. I've been calling this the year of the summer flood, and boy, we've seen a lot of that across the nation. We're going to be dealing with that with some hot spots here for today and for tomorrow, and we're going to show you that. But again, you see that that another cool shot coming on down there. Look at it, there's a 39 right there. Wow, that's pretty cool. You get near 50 degrees there near Gary, Indiana. So this is okay. It's the one coming upstream from this, coming in like toward Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, toward the end of the week. That's a really nice, cool shot that's going to be coming on down here. We're still looking at some active monsoon moisture up here across Montana, here across portions of Utah and Arizona, although we're getting some of this residual leftover moisture from a tropical system, Juliet, there that was off the coast. It's kind of moved inland there a little bit, kind of enhancing that rain threat there. I think the monsoon will kind of start to let up just a little bit for you folks out in the west. It's been pretty wet out there over the last week or so. Let's talk about some of these heavier rains down here toward the south. We're seeing some of that rain there falling across Mississippi and Louisiana, and this is over toward Mobile, seeing some of the rain there. Over near Macomb, Harrisburg getting wet here, Alexandria getting wet here with some pretty good downpours this morning. So anybody traveling heading down toward the I-10 corridor or going to the Gulf Coast this weekend, I wish I had a better forecast for you. It's looking a little damp, a little wet. Looks like a decent chance of rain every day. So you may have to dodge some rain and a few thunderstorms down there along the Gulf Coast. Just keep that in mind if you're going that way. Here's our little hot spots here on our weather advisories. Again, we got our flash flood watches, and you got a couple of warnings in here as well. A little fog across Kansas and Missouri, but otherwise, most of the nation not looking too bad here on your Friday. I know a lot of folks will be hitting the roads, and travel-wise, not looking too bad there, except for the areas across the deep south where that heavy rain is going to be kind of falling and stuff. All right, let's do a quick look out in the tropics. I do want to give you all a quick update on what's going on out there. We got our latest from the Hurricane Center. We got a 30% out here on this one. Not overly concerned about it right now. Again, I'm more concerned about it. Looks like, I think, beyond the 10th. I think when we get in the second half of the month of September, I got a funny feeling we're going to see things kind of flip on out there. It's kind of a little bit of a lull right now, but I don't think that's going to last very long. I think as you get to the second half of the month, and going into heading toward the first week in October, that's why I think things will start get cranking a little bit. Looking at the satellite imagery, I'm not seeing as much Saharan dust out here. There's still dust out here. You can see that brown hue. It doesn't appear to be quite as thick as what it has been. Again, here's a couple of our tropical waves out here, but it's definitely been a kryptonite and inhibitor for the storms out there. Again, we're going to have to watch these old boundaries kind of washing out here again to see if anything will spin up. It's low probability right now, but we'll continue to watch that as these unusually strong troughs and low pressure kind of settle across the east. Now, what I suspect is going to happen is that the pressures here in the Atlantic are going to start to fall. So they're going to drop. And as these drop, that means that they'll rise here across the U.S. So that's why I think we'll see a more traditional September weather, I think, as we go toward the middle of the month for a bigger part of the nation. I'll show you that on the long range here in just a second here. All right, let's look out in the Pacific. We got a couple areas out there in the Pacific to watch. Not really worried about those right now. And you're kind of seeing things, just a few tropical waves out here that we just have to watch and see if we get our next named storm out in the Pacific. But the Pacific's looking a little quiet. Again, we had Juliet moved up into the southwest. We ain't got to worry about that one anymore. So it's whatever moisture's left, it's kind of got moved up that way. All right, so look at your tropical model data here. Again, I got to looping this all around to let this come on around. You see these tracks that are coming out of here on the end of this loop. Again, that's because you got that persistent trough in there. You just kind of watch and see if anything's going to happen. Again, we got our tropical waves here coming out of the Cape Verde season here, kind of coming off, and they are all over the place. It's really which way is it going to go. There's our Bermuda high here, which looks to be shifting back to the west a little bit. So if it does drift back to the west, what that's going to mean, it's going to allow this stuff to steer further and further closer to the U.S. So as we get deeper into September, we'll have to watch and see if that pattern continues, if that model consistency continues to see, because if that high begins to shift to the west, that means the threat to the East Coast and getting into the Gulf of Mexico is going to increase if we get anything tropical to develop. Right now, nothing imminent, but again, I'm looking for forecast trends. That's what I do as a meteorologist to kind of look at there. All right, so let's talk about. I want to talk about the rainfall threat here. That's going to be a problem here more than the severe, quote unquote, severe thunderstorm. But I do want to talk about the heavy rain threat here. And we got a few pockets we got to check in here for today. So let's check and look at this. Again, we're talking Nebraska over to South Dakota. You see the yellow right in here. See that? Whoops, cut that out there. So you see that right there. We got Arizona, Texas down here, and then we're looking at the Gulf Coast. So we're talking about East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. These are going to be our hot zones. I got a little bit of marginal up there across the Northeast, but these are for today. So if you're traveling anywhere across the Deep South, I-20, I-10 corridor, if you're out here on the foothills, just watch out for some of these individual downpours. This is going to stay along the Gulf Coast. Again, Texas, and this is for tomorrow. This is for Saturday. New Mexico, Texas here, out here across South Dakota, Nebraska, into Kansas as well. So you kind of see that out there. But the Northeast, Midwest, not bad. West Coast looking pretty good. Just watch out for any of those travel hotspots there. And that's where you're going into Saturday. And Sunday, it looks like a little pocket here in the middle of the country. Still got the yellow here across New Mexico and Texas, a little bit of the monsoon. Notice we're kind of backing it off here. This was really, really hot and heavy out here for earlier in the week, but that's backed off. The deep south and coming into Carolinas and into Florida here, dealing with that as well. All right, so let's check out our day one outlook for thunderstorms. Let's take a look at that. We do have a marginal risk here right along the Gulf Coast here. So Beaumont to Lafayette, again, some strong individual storms, a few warnings, not out of the question there, but nothing too robust here. And then out here coming out of the plains, Nebraska, coming back to Pueblo in Colorado, coming into northeastern New Mexico and parts of the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle, just a little bit there. This is your day one outlook here for today. How about day two? Let's check out day two. Just a general thunderstorm threat here across the plains, the southeast, a little bit up in Maine, but Midwest, a lot of the southeast, west looking pretty good. And day three, again, just a general thunderstorm threat here across parts of the southeast, up here in the middle of the plains, and we're quiet out here in the west. So going into the Labor Day weekend, really not looking all that bad. Just watch out for those individual travel locations where you may have a few thunderstorms to have to dodge, and watch out for some brief heavy rains and maybe some gusty winds. So just be careful out there for that. All right, let's go ahead and break. Let's get into your model data here for today. Let's go look at your NAM model here. We're looking at your 3 kilometers 6Z run here. As we get you going here, we're looking at your short run here. Hold on, get to the right page. Here we go. And again, we're going to be watching unsettled weather across the southeast. Again, flooding concerns, the new warning there coming out for Texas once again. So again, watch out for that. We got the rains down here across the south. You kind of see that there. There's our reinforcing shadow cool air coming across the northeast. Got a low spinning there. It'll keep it a little unsettled across Maine and up there. And then we got another complex of storms rolling out of the coming out of the Rockies and into the plain states here going into Sunday. So you see the thunderstorms there from Nebraska all the way down into Texas. So it looks like the active weather here is going to be across the New England states, the southeast. A few scattered storms showing up around Chicago, but the Midwest not looking bad. The West is looking pretty good. And of course, we've got to watch Texas there for some of the rains here coming up through Nebraska. This goes into Sunday. All right, so again, watch that timestamp there in the upper right-hand corner. You got to get an idea of where things are going on here. Again, so it looks like the plains are going to be a little active here, the northeast, and we got unsettled here across the southeast, especially on Saturday across the south. I think Sunday will look a little bit better for you guys in Georgia in my backyard. All right, let's look at the rainfall totals. Where's our hot spots? They kind of light up like a Christmas tree. Again, we're looking up here across portions of South Dakota and in Nebraska. Look at that big bullseye. Yikes, that's pretty bad. 16 inches. I don't think it'll be quite that high, but some heavy rains, to say the least, here across portions of South Dakota and into Nebraska. You see there are heavy rains here across New Mexico, Texas, obviously stretching all the way back into Louisiana and Mississippi. Got a couple of 5-inch pockets in here. There's a 7-inch there. There's a 7-inch there. So definitely looking a little stormy there. Down along the Gulf Coast, some brief heavy rains, maybe getting into central Georgia. This will be predominantly into Saturday. And it looks like scattered storms all across Florida. Florida looks like it's got the measles. Look at all the scattered storms there for that. And then obviously we got a little rain coming into the northeast as well. We got a little bit of that rain with that upper low kind of spinning up here. So you see some heavy rains across portions of Maine as well, and lower amounts across New York State and down into portions of New England. So that is our rainfall hot spots there. Let's go look at the temperatures here. Again, not bad by Labor Day. Last year at this time, we were dealing with a heat wave across the South. I know I saw yesterday, like for example, Chattanooga had a record high of 100 degrees yesterday from last year, 2024. So we got nothing like that across the area. We do not have any real extended heat except for maybe Texas, the Southwest, the interior California, and of course up to Washington State, which is continuing to stay hot. You're still seeing the 90s up that way through the weekend. But look at all that green and comfortable lows. I mean, very, very nice here in the east with those below normal temperatures continuing. And it looks like that'll continue all weekend long. And then we'll track that bigger shot coming into next week. My only concern about the one coming the end of next week is going to be how far south does the thing go? I'll show you that here in just a second on that. All right. So let's look at the overall weather pattern here. Again, this is the American GFS model here as we kind of looping this on through. Again, you get this persistent troughiness here across the east once again all weekend long. And then we're still saying, you see the high pressure in the west. So basically warm in the west, cool in the east. That's going to continue. I don't see that being a big change here. Here comes that jump right here. Boom, there goes into Thursday, Friday. Here comes the core coming down here, kind of merging in with that troughiness in the south already. And then going into Thursday and Friday, my question is, look at that. That's a cold core. I mean, I think we're going to have record lows here across the Great Lakes if this holds true. Going into Thursday and Friday, I'd say it very true. But nice little dump here going in toward the early portion of the week. So this trough is going to hang around, slowly pull on out going into that following weekend. This is going into next weekend. And then this thing pulls on out. And then what I've been telling you, remember I've been saying the pressures are anticipated to start falling out in the Atlantic. And then we see it a little more orange here across the country. Notice we're also seeing something tropical, something spinning up here. This is long range. Keep that in mind. This is long range. All right, guys. So we're looking at seeing what kind of consistency you get there. But to me, that makes sense. If this thing pulls on out, the pressures fall as they're supposed to. As we get past the 10th, we'll see warmer temperatures across the nation, and then we'll see that something coming off there. But notice again with this, if we get a hurricane out here again, if it forces ridging out ahead of it, we'll get another troughiness here. And then remember what happened with Aaron? Same thing. We could see another repeat on this. It just depends on if we get something tropical to form out in the Atlantic. That's the first thing that's going to happen there. But look at this big old ridging out here in the middle of the country, big warm up here as we go toward the 13th. Could see some warm temperatures returning to you folks that are enjoying a little bit of the cooler weather right now. All right, so let's go look at the next 7 days here on the GFS. Again, we're going to say a little unsettled here across the south. The big story here on the 7-day, we're going to watch this cold dump. Here it comes right here, right there. There's our cool dump. Here's our cold front. Here's our cold shot coming on down in here. And you're going to notice the blue line. That's what we call our 540 freezing line. That's going to come down here. But there it is right there. So that is a cold core. So what this is telling me is this cold core, even a little snow, look at that, across southern Canada. This tells me this cold shot's a little more thicker as far as thickness and coldness compared to what we had last week. So this is going to be thicker. So I suspect, and look at that big thing sitting across Michigan, and I mean, you're probably going to see some 30s in here. I don't see any way around that. We're definitely going to see some 30s, I think, here across portions of Minnesota, obviously Wisconsin, Michigan as well. Going to see that. Here comes our cold front coming on in. This cold front's coming on in. For you folks in the southeast, my question is going to be, how far south does this thing get? It's not going as, the thickness is not going as far south as what it was showing yesterday. So it's going to change a little bit from day to day until we get a bit closer. But one thing's for sure, we're going to have a nice little cool shot here going into the following weekend. And then after the following weekend, I do expect a bit of a warm up coming in at that time. All right. So let's go ahead and see a look at your temperatures here. We're going to take you through, again, this is your Labor Day snapshot here on Labor Day itself. We talked about Saturday and Sunday. We still got the heat out here in the west. Still looking at this as well. Look at it, you got 90s, upper 90s out here in Washington State here for Labor Day. You got 100-degree temperatures here across California, the Southwest, but still looking at some cooler weather here across the Midwest, the Northeast, Southeast, still not looking too bad there. But let's go ahead and take you through next week here. Let's go into your Tuesday afternoon. And okay, there's your Tuesday. Still hot in the West. Here's the heat across Texas. Still seasonable here, not bad across the Midwest, the Southeast, the Northeast, still looking pretty good. It's definitely hot in the West, cooler in the East. You clearly see that. But we're going to track that next cold shot. That's going to be the big thing here. As we go toward Wednesday, look, here's Wednesday morning. Here is our cold shot starting to make its presence felt here as we go into your Wednesday afternoon. Still holding on to the heat across Texas, the Southwest, the Northwest continues to be hot. Could be some record highs out there. And then here goes into your Thursday morning. Look at this. Here comes, wow, look at that. Big old core coming out. Mid-30s, 35, 36, 37. So we get the 30s coming in here, as I was saying, going into Thursday there. And then this thing goes into your Thursday afternoon. Still hot across Texas. Here's 100-degree temperatures across Texas once again. It's a very sharp dividing line here. We got 70s coming on down, cooler here in the Northeast, cooler coming into the South, hot in the West. It's clearly going to be, the country is going to be divided in half with this cold and this warm for sure for next week. And then we got 50s and 40s coming into the Southeast once again. Look at how much the country's there. Hot across Texas, warm across Texas. You guys are going to miss that. And then still warm here. Look at mid-70s for lows here on Friday morning out in the West. That's just terrible. That's terrible for Washington State. Going to stay very unusually warm out there. And then your afternoon highs here on your Friday again. Look at this, 103, 102, 101. Not done with summer yet here across Texas. Very hot, but cool across the Great Lakes. Look at these temperatures here in the 40s and 50s here for afternoon highs. I got 70s here across the Southeast, 80s here. They got 100s out here in the West still. So it's just going to be a crazy, crazy pattern. But I think, again, going beyond this 7-day period, I think we see that clear up. I think we will probably not see as much heat nor as much cold. I think it'll kind of balance out a little bit where it looks a little more seasonal, but I still think we still might see above normal temperatures kicking in beyond the 10th, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our climate outlook here. Let's kind of look at this again. Clearly what we just saw, and what you just saw there, you saw the big cool down there in the east. So look how much this below normal here. Very hot here in the West. Hot, just say it, H-O-T, hot. And we got big C cool here in the east here. Again, this is for September 3rd through the 7th, and then taking us out from the 5th to the 11th, still keeping it cool here in the east. I think this is going to change a little bit, okay? I think as these progress, let's put it this way. By the time we come back to you guys next week, and we look at this next week, we'll see this change. Because as we get, I think we're going to see more of the country warm up as we head toward the middle of the month. But still, right now through this period, we're looking at very warm here in the West, kind of cool here in the East as we go to the 11th of the month right now. Your precipitation outlook here, most of the country at or above normal with the precipitation, except for a little dry spot here across the high plains, a little bit in the Northwest going in from that period. Again, that's from the 3rd through the 7th, and then going out from the 5th through the 11th. Just a little cool, a little dry spot there across the Midwest, but a little wet out in the West and the Southeast and into the Northeast as well. So again, looks like we're in store for a kind of a crazy, crazy start to the month of September with the temperatures just one extreme to another. Just really amazing to see out there that we're going to have to deal with summer heat and kind of coolish, almost when you're talking lows in the 30s, maybe even a touch of winter there a little bit there across the Great Lakes. Saw a little snow showing up there in some of the models up there in southern Canada. So just to go to show you that, you know, September is truly a month of transitions. If you go to your local weather office there and you see what the normal high in your location is on the 1st of September as compared to the last day of September, and you go, ooh, wow, that's a big change. Yeah, it's quite a bit because we're losing a lot of daylight, obviously, and we're definitely making that seasonal change as fall. My favorite time of year is here. Of course, we got football starting this weekend. You got college football getting going, and just ready for that stuff. All right, who we got out there for this morning? We got Mick out there. We got Edith. Good morning, guys, out there. I appreciate you guys checking out this. This is for you guys out there. You know, I should probably just make this maybe put it for you subscribers because you guys are out there too doing that. But I appreciate you guys. Again, I'm going to be playing around with the thumbnails just for you guys to know out there. I'm going to be playing around with this a little bit to kind of help the YouTube algorithm out a little bit. It is. I don't think it's like my generic slide anymore, and it's kind of dumped me on the algorithm. It's not so much the headline. So I'm gonna play around for that. But don't worry, it's still gonna be there. I'm still gonna call it the Weather Report. I just want to get you to know that I'm gonna be just experimenting a little bit with it because it was doing well for the regular one I had for a while, but now it's dropped off the map. I didn't change anything, so I don't know. It seems like every time I think I got the rules figured out for YouTube, they change them on me. So what are you gonna do? Anyway, that's y'all's update for today. You guys have a great, blessed, and safe Labor Day weekend. We'll see you guys next week. I'll be back on Tuesday. I'm gonna take Labor Day off. So we'll be back on Tuesday through Friday next week, and then we'll be tracking that big cold dump, and we'll see what happens with that going into next week. You guys